This is a case of 11-year-old Maria Gonzalez and how she told her dad that someone was knocking on the door before she was killed. Maria Elena Gonzalez was an 11-year-old girl from Guatemala. She was born to her parents Carmelo and Ana Elizabeth, and then she also had a younger sister. About 4 years ago, Maria and her father Carmelo actually moved to the United States in hopes of finding a better life and better opportunities. The mother, Ana Elizabeth, had to stay back in Guatemala with the younger sister because she had some health issues, and Maria just really loved her father and they had such a close relationship that she wanted to come with her dad to the US. Living in Florida for some time, and then they moved to Austin, Texas, and then at the time of her death, they were living in Pasadena, Texas. The reason they chose Pasadena, Texas is because Carmelo had family members that were already living there, so he just wanted Maria to grow up with her relatives and with her cousins. Saturday, August 12, 2023, that day was supposed to be just like any other day. Carmelo got up at around 9 o'clock in the morning and started getting ready for work. As he was doing this, he said that he heard a male voice speaking on the phone outside of the apartment in the hallway. He couldn't hear what they were saying or who this person was, but it was loud enough for him to hear it inside the apartment. Regardless, Carmelo continued to get ready, and then he left the apartment at around 9:50 in the morning to make it to work by 10 a.m. Now, it was just him and Maria living in this apartment, so he left 11-year-old Maria home alone. And just a few minutes later, at 10:02, 10:04 in the morning, Maria sent her father a voice note on WhatsApp saying, "Someone's knocking on the door." Carmelo responded and said, "Well, did they come in or what happened?" And Maria said no, that she was inside the bedroom hiding and that the person was just knocking outside. Her father told her to not open the door, and Maria said that she wouldn't, that she was going to stay in her bed. But then after that, Maria stopped responding. Carmelo tried to call Maria and sent her messages, but he wasn't getting an answer. Now, his brother and his family actually lived inside the same building, so he called his brother and asked him if he could go down to their unit and check in on Maria. Carmelo's brother and his sister-in-law had a key to the apartment, so when they went to go check in on Maria and open the door, they realized that the door was unlocked, which was very strange because Maria always had the door locked when she was home alone. So they walk inside, and that's when they see that there was coffee and sugar scattered in the living room and that the couch had been moved. Start looking around, but Maria is nowhere to be found. They call out for her name, but they just couldn't find her. The brother and sister-in-law message Carmelo and tell him that they weren't able to find Maria, and then they go back to their own apartment. At around 3 p.m., Carmelo was finally able to get off work, so he goes back home and he's joined by his brother and his sister-in-law to continue to search for Maria. But Maria was still missing. Carmelo's looking around his house and he notices that the family's laundry basket is gone. So he's thinking, oh, maybe Maria went to go do laundry and that's where she's been this entire time. However, when he looks underneath their bed, he finds the laundry basket. And inside was a black trash bag. And when they opened up the bag, they found the body of 11-year-old Maria Gonzalez. Along with Maria's body, they also found a silver key. A key that did not belong to Carmelo or Maria. So whose key did this belong to? Okay, more in part 2. This is part 2 on the case of 11-year-old Maria Gonzalez and how she told her father that someone was knocking on the door before she was killed. After finding Maria's body, the family calls the paramedics and the police, and when they arrive, they do everything they can to save Maria, but unfortunately, it was too late. Maria Gonzalez was pronounced dead on the scene. They transported her body to the medical examiner's office for an autopsy to be conducted, and it determined that Maria's cause of death was asphyxiation due to strangulation, and it also determined that she had been essayed. Question now was, who did this and why? Carmelo hands over the silver key that he found in the apartment to the police and tells them, like, this key does not belong to me or to Maria. While police are processing this key, they go around the apartment building trying to speak to other residents to see if maybe they heard or saw something. They go speak to a nearby unit who some sources have said was across the hall from Maria's apartment. Others say it was nearby. Either way, they go speak to this nearby unit, and inside were living 3 men. One of them included 18-year-old Juan Carlos Garcia Rodriguez. This screenshot is from body camera footage from when police went to go question these men. So they asked the 3 men, what were you doing the night before Maria died and what were you doing the morning of? And Juan Carlos tells them that he was at a friend's house the night before and that the morning Maria died, he was also at the friend's house. After collecting all 3 men's DNA, police continue on. Now, they're not thinking that Juan Carlos or any of these 3 men might be the killer. They're just one of many residents questioned for Maria's death. However, when police go back to Juan Carlos's apartment a few days later, they realize that the locks on the doors have been changed changed and that Juan Carlos is gone. I asked the roommates, what happened, and they said that Juan told them on Monday, August 14th, just 2 days after Maria was killed, that he had a new job opportunity and that he was moving away. So they asked him for his key back, but he said no, that he was going to be holding on to his apartment key just in case. Now, these two men didn't really know Juan Carlos that well. I mean, he was only living at the apartment for 3 to 4 weeks before Maria died, so they didn't know him. And they were honestly worried at the fact that he wanted to keep his key, and they were worried about what he might do, so that's why they had the locks changed. Police asked the roommates, do you still have the old locks? And they did. They give the old locks to the police, and when they put the silver key inside, it's a match. So the key found near Maria Gonzalez's body is allegedly a match to 18-year-old Juan Carlos Garcia's apartment. Question now is, where is he? Since there really wasn't any other evidence connecting him to Maria's case, they weren't able to call him a suspect or put out an arrest warrant for him. All police were able to do was just identify him as a person of interest. We're waiting for DNA results to come back, and on August 18th, Juan Carlos was arrested in Louisiana. He was arrested and he was charged with the murder of Maria Gonzalez. He was extradited back to Texas, and his first court hearing was on August 24th, and he said that yes, he was involved in Maria's killing, but that he didn't do it willingly. He says that he was forced to kill and assault Maria because 2 African American men put a to his head. As of now, his bond has been denied, and his next hearing is on October 30th, so we will see what happens then. My thoughts and prayers go out to Maria's family. I am so sorry that this terrible thing happened to her. She was so innocent, and she just didn't deserve this. Who knows what the motive was for this, and it just breaks my heart that Maria and her father came to the United States looking for a better life, and then this terrible thing happened to them. I just truly hope that Maria Gonzalez does get justice.
I'm 5 feet tall. My favorite food is steak. My favorite color is blue. My best friend is Aaron Larson. And my newest friend is Gabe.
This is the last known footage of 11-year-old Jacob Wetterling, recorded just 10 days before he disappeared on October 22, 1989. What follows is one of the largest searches for a missing person in U.S. history.
Wetterling was abducted at gunpoint last night while riding his bike with 2 other boys.
He grabbed Jacob and then he told me to run as fast as I could into the woods or else he'd shoot.
New evidence tonight leads the FBI to believe that Jacob Wetterling's kidnapper may have struck before.
Only 10 miles from where Jacob was abducted, Jared Shirel was also kidnapped and assaulted just 6 days before his 13th birthday in 1989. Decades later, he will be the key to solving not only his own case, but also a series of attacks on other young boys in Minnesota, including Jacob Wetterling.
This crime was so horrific in nature, and it's gone on for 25 years.
How many psychopathic pedophiles can exist in a 20-mile radius?
I want answers. I want to know what happened.
I'm going to give it 110%. If the answer's out there, then I'm going to find it.
St. Joseph, Minnesota. 11-year-old Jacob Wetterling lives with his 3 siblings, Amy, Trevor, and Carmen, and his mom and dad, Patty and Jerry. It's October 22nd, 1989.
It was a chilly but not too chilly October morning. We got up. Jacob and I went fishing and then came back for a noon kickoff for the Vikings game. It was kind of a family tradition, watching Vikings football.
That evening, Jacob's parents go to a dinner party at a friend's house, about 25 minutes away. They were going to be back later that night, and they planned for the kids to stay at home while they were gone.
We were in the middle of dinner. Trevor calls, asked Patty if he and Jacob and Aaron could ride their bikes down to the local convenience store and rent a movie.
There's nothing between us and the store. It's farm field mostly and a few houses. But it was starting to get dark, and I said, no, find something to do. We've got plenty to do.
But the kids keep asking. They convince Patty and Jerry to let them go to the store with their friend Aaron, if they take flashlights and head straight back home afterwards. St. Joseph is usually a very peaceful place, and the Wetterlings figure the kids will be fine, as long as they watch out for traffic.
If he truly died this way, then he died in one of the worst deaths imaginable. Viewer discretion is advised. Pictured here was 23-year-old Duncan McPherson. He was born in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. He had dreams of becoming an NHL player. He was actually a first-round pick of the New York Islanders, but because of several injuries, he never actually made it to the NHL. In August of 1989, he would travel to the Stubai Alps, which is in Austria. He was actually intending to go to Scotland, but he passed through here on his way. He was expected to make it to Scotland on August 12th, but he never arrived. 6 weeks later, the car that he borrowed from a friend was found at the Stubai ski resort. So they spoke to the people at the resort and they said that in fact was there. To them, it appeared that he was going to do some snowboarding before he continued his trip. But nobody knew where he was. He just vanished. So he was reported missing. And he would be missing for 14 years. In 2003, some people nearby saw a glove sticking out of a melting glacier. In the middle of that glacier, McPherson's remains. I can't show those images because, you know, TikTok. His arms had both been amputated. So were both his hands and both his legs. His body was quite literally in pieces. Now, apparently there is some science behind the fact that if a body is inside of like a glacier like this, I guess a body can separate. But based on the actual bones and where the injuries and fractures were, and this is also his snowboard that was found inside the glacier with him, and you can see that it has some severe like cutting on it. This is another image where you can see the damage to the snowboard. They also found his wallet, which in there they found cards with particular damage. It looked like the teeth of a tiller on a snow tilling machine. So these teeth right there. The machine that in question also has this on it. Very large machine with a lot of machinery and very large metal claw things. When experts looked at his bones, they determined that there was no way that his body had separated through the natural process of like it being stuck in a glacier like that. They said his bones were separated, could only be explained by machinery. So this is what they think happened. This is an image from the mountain he would have been snowboarding on. This is the tilling machine they would have used. They believe that Dustin somehow got injured on that mountain. They believe it was very foggy, and as he was lying on the ground waiting for help, the tilling machine ran over his body, tearing him to pieces. They said it would have peeled the skin off of his bones. It would have ripped his limbs off. These parts right here would have absolutely annihilated his body. Not only would he be crushed to death, but he's also dealing with the agony of having his skin peeled off of his body, his limbs being torn off. Now, one could only hope that if this was how he died, that he didn't experience it for too long. That hopefully he would have died fairly quickly, but they can't say for sure. It would have been probably pretty foggy, hard for the driver to see. They did confirm they were driving these with skiers on the mountain. It would have been so loud he wouldn't have heard the blood-curdling screams of the man he was destroying. I was reading that one of his legs could have possibly, just based on this, could have gotten stuck in this machine before it was taken off, and it like basically just rotated it until his leg was like pulled off. They were even able to determine that he was likely alive for a little bit of this because there was certain damage to his bones that indicated he tried to remove himself from the machine, but they can't say that for sure. They can't confirm that this is the way he actually died, but the evidence shows and proves that it was likely done by a machine and not by some natural method. So, what they believe happened is either the driver realized what happened after the fact, was afraid of possibly losing his job and being, going to trial for manslaughter because he had broken safety protocols, or they think maybe he was drunk. And again, the whole trial and manslaughter stuff. They even think he may have had help from a supervisor, basically move the body to where it was eventually found. Again, they can't confirm it, but that is the ultimate likelihood. And if that is the way he died, Jesus Christ, I sincerely hope, I have to just believe that he did not feel it for too long, because that is hell on earth, and I would wish that on nobody.
I have to live with my child being dead. I hope they can live. I hope they can sleep, because I pray to God that the pain that they have caused me and my family will multiply. I pray everything they do will be cut off. I pray everything that they touch will perish. These people have not even come by and said sorry. or give their condolences or anything. This little kid that used to eat at my house, go on vacation with us. I fed him like my own, have not even showed up and tell me what happened to my son. Y'all imagine my pain and my anger? Can you even imagine how I feel? It's just the grace of God that's keeping me. I swear to God.
This is the story of 18-year-old Lennon Latham, affectionately known as LJ. He was a young man full of potential, with big dreams and a family who loved him dearly. LJ had his entire life ahead of him, but tragically, after an evening out with his best friend, he would go missing and would be found dead days later. His young life would be cut short under suspicious circumstances, leaving his family devastated and a community in shock. What happened to LJ? Was his death an accident? Or a resident of Miramar, was an ambitious young man and was known for leading others, being selfless, and having a kind heart. He was so caring that he'd even give away his last bit of money to help someone else. LJ was really close to his parents, who loved him deeply and raised him well. He loved spending time with them, and always showed his appreciation for the life they provided him.
I'm just an icon living. Wait, I'm just an icon living. Hey.
He also had a loving sister and a younger brother who adored him. His brother's first words were LJ. LJ had high ambitions. He started a car wash business in his community, washing rental cars. He also had dreams of becoming a pilot after finishing high school. He was passionate about flying and worked hard to make that dream come true.
Okay, Mr. Pilot, how was your first flight?
It was good.
Were you nervous?
No, I was not nervous. It was very exciting. As soon as I let off, it was just natural for me. Just let it go and I just took over. That was it.
Wow, how was the landing?
It was a bit bumpy, but we got it down on numbers. It was really cool.
Currently a high school senior, he was set to graduate with good grades in 2023 and had been accepted into a university focused on aviation. LJ was a model child in the eyes of his parents. His mom, Charmaine, was proud of him and often talked about his achievements on social media. At 18 years old, LJ had his whole life ahead of him, but everything changed on a particular night in April 2023. On that night, LJ told his mom he was going out with his best friend, who lived nearby. He had to be back home by midnight, and he usually kept in touch with his mom while he was out. However, as the night grew later, LJ didn't respond to his mom's messages or calls. She even contacted his friend, who said LJ left his phone in the car while he was in the bathroom. His mom grew worried when he didn't get back in touch and checked his location. She saw that he had passed their home, which was unusual. Alarmed, she went to the park where LJ and his friend usually hung out, but LJ was nowhere to be found. Panic set in, and she called the authorities to report him missing. For 3 agonizing days, LJ's family and the community searched for him.
The search intensifies to find a South Florida teenager missing for days.
7's Belkis Duray is at the news desk with more on this. Belkis?
As you might imagine, this family is desperately seeking help to find their missing son. 18-year-old Lennon Latham disappeared in Miramar Tuesday night. He was last seen near Vizcaya Park on Southwest 55th Street. This afternoon, they searched a lake in a gated community as part of their investigation. His family, as you might imagine, is very concerned for his well-being. Lennon was last seen wearing a white t-shirt, red Adidas joggers, and Gucci sandals. If you have any information, you are urged to call Miramar Police right away. The number is 954-602-4000. And now federal agencies are helping local police in this search.
Sadly, LJ's body was discovered in a lake in the park where he was last seen. The authorities concluded that he had accidentally drowned. But this explanation left many questions unanswered, especially since LJ was a strong swimmer according to his mom.
A tragic update to the search for a missing Miramar teenager, police finding his body in a lake last night. Lennon LJ Latham was last seen on Tuesday near Vizcaya Park on Southwest 55th Street. His body was found nearby. Investigators say no foul play suspected right now. The cause of death will be determined by the medical examiner.
Despite the tragedy, the case didn't receive much attention beyond the local area, and it was eventually closed. Yet, LJ's family couldn't shake the feeling that something more sinister had happened. LJ's mom took to social media to air out her frustrations with the circumstances surrounding her son's death.
So, everyone, been asking me what happened to LJ. I still don't believe what I was told happened to my son, because it doesn't make sense. I was told that, according to the autopsy, that my son drowned. Accidental drowning. How does a kid that is an amazing swimmer drowns accidentally? I don't understand that. Makes no sense.
Today is a good day. This woman, this Ruby Frank from 8 Passengers, has finally been arrested. Now, if you've got no idea who this person is, she and her husband had a YouTube channel called 8 Passengers, and it was a family YouTube channel, but this woman was just horrible to her children. For example, she made one of her children sleep on a beanbag for months. She took away the child's privilege, as she called it, of having a bedroom. She also sent one of her children off to wilderness camps. If you don't know what wilderness camps are, they're like a thing in America for some reason, where this child had to spend, I think it was about 6 months in the desert in his underwear. She also sent her 5-year-old child into school without lunch, because the child was old enough to pack the lunch herself. And she quoted in this video, she hoped no one stepped in and gave this child a lunch so this child would learn the consequences of his actions. Overall, she just doesn't sound that nice. There's lots of other things that she's done over the years. She's just... If you want to go and find out more, go and have a look. She has been arrested because of child abuse charges, because police found one of her children extremely malnourished with duct tape on their extremities and with open wounds. Yeah. And the fact people knew about her behaviour towards these children for years, and it had to get to this level for her to finally be arrested and for police to do something is disgraceful. The child in question also climbed out of the window to go and get help. And do you know what that reminds me of? The Turpin family. And if you don't know who the Turpin family are, go and Google them. This was happening in front of our eyes. In front of our eyes. I also just want to share this. This is from Sherry Frank, I think, which is one of Ruby's daughters. They've shared this to their story confirming this. And they also mentioned that if you have any sort of clips, questionable clips from the 8 Passengers account, send them to her. So I'm putting this on here in case any of you guys do, go and help this girl out. I'm sure there'll be more to come out on this story and I'll keep you updated. And, you know, bits and pieces will probably get changed about, but I just really wanted to share the good news because, oh.
I feel like you're hostage, now your lover, hidden under covers. You only love me when you wake up. Is it me or am I not enough? Then you leave and I'm hollow. Some days I get so low, there has to be a way out. They say I'm lucky, but they don't live inside my head. It's where the demons at, it's where the demons at. They say I'm lucky, but they don't live inside my head.
What? What's wrong with you? What?
Talk to my daughter.
Parker?
Please let me inside.
Parker!